Right. All going well. We're live now, and I know I need to mute YouTube in just a minute when it comes up. Okay. We're all good. So, two mental projectors, Celia and Viliaka. Let's bring up your charts. So, this is Celia and this is Viliaka. And we can see that for a mental projector, all these centers down here are open. So in all these more grounded, more physical chakras, the emotions, the body, the sacral, the root, the limbic, and the G center, you're all open and you're taking in everybody else. And mental projectors, so they're very rare, but 1 or 2% of the population that is a mental projector. And you know, here for Corinne Piliaka, it says inner authority, none. And that's only half true. It's not really true because you do have an authority. It's just very different. It's outside of yourself, which is why it says it's not an inner authority. It's kind of like an outer authority. It's like you need the environment. You need the environment to be part of where you find your direction, your authority. And but this, because it's so rare and because you are so open here, you need to first find out who you are. You first need to decondition from a lifelong, everybody else telling you what to be. You should be a generator and you should be working hard and feeling successful when you've achieved something with your work, and you should be setting goals here in the heart center, and you're trying to do that, and then you feel everybody else's emotions more than they feel them themselves, and you feel that pressure to do stuff. And then you're supposed to be really intuitive because of course you're spiritual and you can sense things and so, but that, and then you feel the essence of everybody else in the J center. You know, you could just feel who they are, but who are you? And that's up here. So this is where you have constant energy. And what every mental projector has is the ashna, this where the mind sort of just works. You have that defined. You have it either defined, so you have it either defined together with the head center or with the throat center or through both. So Celia, you have both. You know, the definition comes because you have a channel between two centers that makes the centers defined. So you've got this channel, and both make the ajna defined. And Piliaka has this channel here that makes the ajna defined. So the important thing to look at here is the ajna. The ajna, this center that is a thinking center. It's a mind center. It's a constant, you have constant thoughts. You always have thoughts, and this is your uniqueness, you know, your perspective on life, in life comes through your thought processes. Let's see, Lorenz, is Lorenz here? Yes,
yeah,
here you
I'm
are.
there.
Is there anything you want to add to that on this level?
Yeah, maybe how we see the ashna at the moment, how we perceive it in others, is that it is a little bit like a marble. What's the English word? word. It's a little bit like these tracks in. Do you have the word? That's going to be easier than me trying to describe.
It's like putting in the marble at the top and it goes down. So there's a path. Something goes in, and then there's a unique path in everyone who has the ajna defined. A unique path, a unique way of.
Oh, looks like Una just cut out there. I hope she's going to come back. But I can take over until she comes back. Yeah, it's exactly this. Like if we talk to, sorry, you've been cutting out. So I've been taking your picture. It's like putting in something into the thought process or into the mind. I can only give something like a marble into a defined asana, and it goes through this defined thought process, and then something else comes out than what I've put into. So there's a really vast difference between the defined and the undefined asana. If I talk with Una and we both have undefined heads, Una gets what I am giving her as a concept. So she grasps me. She grasps what I am thinking, and then she says something because you could say it's in reference to what I said. Now, when I talk with somebody with a defined asana, it's a bit different. I say something and it goes in on the top, it goes through this process, and then something else comes out that doesn't necessarily have something to do with what I meant. But if it's correct, the potential is that it adds to it. So, and as always with the defined center, what you can do with a defined asana is you can become wise about how your mind works, because it works in a fixed pattern, how you process things, how you deal with thoughts, with inspiration. This from head to asana to throat is basically the way how inspiration or pressure to think gets worked through by your mind and processed into something that in the end can be expressed. That is this path from head to asana, from head to throat. And because it's defined, you can track it. You can become wise about yourself, about how this works for you.
Yeah, and it's the thing is, you first have to decondition yourself for this to work. So the really big thing for mental projectors is to find out what's the difference between everybody else and how everybody else has defined you and who you are. So you have to get rid of all these limiting beliefs and other people's goals and other people's emotions, so that you can actually feel this and become you and become that wisdom, because otherwise you're just spouting whatever you've been taught. And let's see, Corinne here. Corinne, she also has that. She's not a mental projector because she's well defined down here, but she has that defined mind, so that when I say something to Corinne, okay, she'll take it in, and I'm just fascinated to see what then comes out, because there's wisdom in there. I notice that wisdom in her when I speak with her. And let's see, what was I going to say? Yes, and Celia, you've got this middle channel. This is very much about you, uniqueness, individuality. So with your thought process, when a mental projector gets that hang of it, it is amazing what can come out of that process that happened within you. But to get to that process within you, which is you and not everybody else, Yeah, that's the trick. That's the trick. And how do you get that? You get that by being in the right environment. And of course, most of the environment is not right, because most of the environment is trying to tell you what you are and what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to think, and that you're supposed to set goals and work hard and be this or that or the next thing. But what you really need is an environment that allows you to express, you so that you can hear yourself, because it's, you're connected here to the throat. You're so especially for you, Celia, you're connected to the throat, so it needs to come out through the breath. But also, this is also true for you, Piyaka. It needs to come out through the breath, and then this connection, you hear your thoughts. The breath connected to the mind brings out the words, and you're listening to what comes out from your mind. Not actively, think necessarily, but just to sit back and observe what the mind is computing by itself. It can think without you thinking. So it's, the heart pumps. The heart doesn't need you to pump. And the same is true for the brain. The brain does not need you to do the thinking. You allow it to just think and then see what comes out. And to have an environment that allows you to just speak and doesn't jump in to discuss things and think things through and make lists of pros and cons, and we have these beliefs and we have those beliefs, and we are this religion and this spirituality, or whatever it is. That's not who you are. And you need that space. You really need, and you're going to have to ask for it most likely. You're going to have to most likely tell people, could you please just sit there without judgment and just listen to me talk? Now we've got the two of you here. Maybe you could do that with each other, because you can feel this. I mean, Lorenz and I, we're different. Everybody else is different. So actually what I'm looking for is you guys experimenting with this, feeling this, and then telling us what it's like. Because I can just, I'm just getting it out of the field. I'm a generator. I'm something else. Lorenz is a reflector. That's, again, he's probably closer to you than I am. Yeah. Lorenz, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, like Una said, there is, with all the open centers for a projector, there is all this conditioning that's probably layered up. And in previous videos, we talked about the not self and its themes, which will be very, very helpful, because it helps you getting awareness of how that can look in the different center, like what is the not self theme in the heart. And for the deconditioning process, how that usually works is that you actually start following your strategy and authority. And so all projectors have the same strategy, which is wait for the invitation. And then as an authority, even though it says none, as Una described, that's not really true. Your inner or outer authority, because you're listening to your own voice, is listening to your own voice and hearing the truth in that. And that is the path to deconditioning, no longer taking decisions by any of the other hooks, you could say, that are there on the lower part of your chart, but actually waiting for an invitation and then talking to somebody if there is a decision to be made, and just listen to yourself talk. And it can be a little bit difficult at the start. Maybe you want to actually tape yourself, or maybe you want to talk to yourself, but somebody else is really better, because they're going to define you in different ways, and talking to different people is best. But what is really important is that you can talk freely. So there is different levels of talk, right? You can go and drink a tea with someone, and you speak. You have a regular talk, and you might discuss things, And that's not what it's about when it's about listening to yourself. It's really being able to express your thoughts without thinking what you're going to say. And there is an energy difference that you can start to feel where it really just comes through. It comes through and it's all aligned and it comes through and you're kind of surprised of what you just said. And for that to be possible, you need to have someone that is listening to you where you can do that, where whatever comes out of your mouth, whatever you've processed, whatever is true for you is okay, is allowed to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like not knowing what you're going to say. You're just sort of channeling it, I guess. You know, go to that place of wisdom where you're not actively thinking, but allowing it to come through. Yeah. And okay, so I think that's what we have to say from the outside. What do you experience? How does that feel for you when we say all these things, and what are your experiences with that?
You're both invited to speak whenever.
I think you're working with the unmute thing. Let's see if I am. How does this work?
There we go. Okay, I figured it out. Pilaka, do you want to go first, or?
She's still muted. She's still working on it.
Okay, I'll go ahead. And this
Yeah,
has been
please.
so interesting to be exposed to the human design system. And it's interesting talking about my defined Ajna center, because I had almost a bit of a crisis knowing that there was a complete system that was so detailed and with such a large body of knowledge that I had to like integrate with what I've already got. So I was having a bit of discomfort trying to understand the system and trying to like make it kind of like go into what I've already accumulated throughout my own life. So that's been interesting, and that's neat that to hear that, because that was my experience. And then looking at all of the different ways that I felt conditioned over the years and recognizing it has been a real awakening process. Kareen, she was the one who introduced me to this, and she said, Celia, I think you might not be living in alignment with your type. And I was really surprised to hear that, but shocked to see that over my life, even as a child, I would get sick very often. I didn't have the energy reserves that other people did. If I got invited to do something, people recognized my ability to do something, I did incredibly. If I forced something or forced a relationship, it would be the pits. So just really interesting to see how so much of this is just validating my experience. And the thing that's interesting about decision making is that I feel like I do get access to the different centers. I will like feel excitement and then move in a certain direction, or I will get a very quick intuitive hit. I don't know if I get so much a gut sense, but I feel like it's like an inconsistent ability to use my body as a decision-making tool. And that in the past, quite often I've relied on psychics to help understand my life and guide me. And so, but because I really like the idea of, as you're evolving, you're becoming better and better at being self-reliant, and it's all within me. So I've actually, as my psychics have kind of dropped off and they stopped working or whatever, they're moving on to different things, I've actually not reached out to other people. And I keep myself I have a lot of walls, because as a projector, I've just been like I've allowed myself to be used my whole life. So I've actually cut out like a whole bunch of people in my life, like lots of family, lots of friends. So I keep a very close inner circle. So I don't have a lot of people to actually air out, to actually talk things out. So once I lost my psychics that I would depend on, and then I just never really recognize the value of speaking out loud for myself. I just never even thought of it. And then I've like just this last few years, I've made so many bad decisions. Terrible decisions. And so now this is really interesting. And I really like to see, you know, do the experiment and see what is going to happen once I actually start looking to my environment, listening to myself speak, or to speak with someone and hear. Yeah, in fact, it's almost foreign. I'm not even sure I'm describing it correctly. So I just talk to someone and they don't give me any advice, and I just listen to myself speak, I guess.
Yep, that's exactly it. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's really something to recognize that you probably have never met anyone with the same configuration to take decisions. So whatever you've heard in your life and whatever you've seen in your life, because what you're not and you're open, all the other centers of how to take decisions, they are open. So you see that in others. And you see, wow, that's not me. What's wrong with me? Usually that's what happens. But you not having experimented or even really knowing how to do that makes perfect sense to me, because you've probably never met it, and everything you heard about how to take decisions is wrong for you. So yeah, it will be an extraordinary journey to see what comes out of this one.
Yes,
Yep.
and you're describing that you may get a blip of this and this and this, you know, different ways that other people do. It's not constant, yes, because everything is here. We all have the whole circuit board, but it's not a constant energy. It's nothing you can rely on.
Yeah, and
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I also wonder if maybe like part of because sometimes when I do ask myself questions and I get like a yes, no, is that like a mental, is that part of like a mental decision-making process within myself? Because it's like, it's words and it's not coming from about my body. It's definitely coming from like around here. Or is that an outer influence? Is that like my higher self, or is that an actual outer authority, a spirit guide or something actually saying like, yes, do that?
Well, if you experiment with that and see what the outcome is, if the outcome is bitter, then you know that's not to follow that.
Right.
But if you feel success, you know that is a really good guidance for you.
Yeah. And it is usually very successful. So I wonder if it is actually an outer guide or benevolent ETs or something helping out.
Yeah, it could be because for you it is about bringing wisdom through. It is a little bit like channeling. So this is really cool hearing that from you. Maybe that's the answer. You actually have to channel your your decisions. Super cool.
Yeah.
Please experiment with it.
Absolutely. And tell us, you could also see it as an inner voice that you hear. It's still your voice, but it's not coming out through the throat. I mean, there is so little experience with that. It's literally less than reflectors. It's less than 1%. So yeah, tell us.
Thank you. It's great to even say it all. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm just realizing that everybody here has done CE5. Okay, good. Pilyaka. Okay, so
could it be that you have to unmute?
Yes.
Let's try this.
Okay, I'm going to try again.
Now. Yeah, now. Yeah. When I was listening to you, then from my past came, perhaps that's why I was in the past so good in troubleshooting, because I could realize everything, and then my mind was just having the answer in my mind, what is going on, and troubleshooting was always worked out very well for me. And it was a short time, and I could do really things that I never thought I would be able. And now it's a little bit different. My life changed. And what I realized now with this story with my witch sisters that is going on, I was speaking, like you said, with a good friend, and I was telling him what is going on in my mind and what I want to do or not or whatever. And after all this process, I had something that I could write to them. And actually, it was also like an invitation to write it, but from myself, not from outside. It was like, it felt like an invitation. Now you can write. And the result was that something changed, and now is getting some movement into the story. And now I'm looking what will happen at the end. So that was just coming today, this movement. Yeah, but it's not so easy to I know when I was in my former times, sometimes I had really the decision right away. It comes like you said, like a coming in from somewhere, and then I just know. I know this is it. I just know. I don't know from where it comes from, and often it is also like a voice. I hear it like a voice. You go there, or yeah. So, but this stopped in the last time, so I miss it. I miss that.
Well, it's absolutely fascinating because Piljaka came onto the German Zoom calls, and so we did the mental projector there a few months ago, whatever. So you've now had the ability to see how to deal with this. I think it's, Piljaka, I wonder, if you miss it, could it just come again? I'm starting, when I look at your energy field, I can see that something has changed. I can see that something has changed here, actually. Something like brightness. There's a light bulb going on. So I'm thinking maybe that voice can come back. But who am I to tell you,
That would be wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this happened just this afternoon, so with my witch sisters. So it's fascinating.
Yeah. So just for everybody, the issue, from my perspective, the issue was that you wanted to discuss things, and you used the word discuss. So when other people hear that you want to discuss things, they're involved and they want to talk. But when you ask them to listen, just to listen to me.
Yeah, and I have a Rutger, you know him.
Yes, I know Rutger.
Yes, yeah, you know him. So I call him and he's listening.
Oh, fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Say hello to him.
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Anything else on mental projectors? Otherwise, we'll go on to, Celia.
You have to unmute.
There we go.
Probably.
There we go.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
I was just thinking that, Kiliaka, you were talking about writing. And I think that writing is one of the ways that I put all my thoughts out into an email, and I do actually write. Like, I wrote a book. I'm working on another book right now, and I can write it all out. I can delete everything. I can rearrange the words. And I actually do find when I'm writing that I'll like take huge paragraphs and move them around. So and I know other writers that are very talented. I think they're like natural born writers, but they just and it doesn't need a lot of work. But I find that when I'm writing, I need to like really massage it and change it, and then it's right, and then I can send the email or feel complete with the page. So I wonder if that might be one of the ways that I'm processing and trying to comprehend my own self.
That could well be. And see what happens if you try to channel that voice, if it just comes through them, or whether you actually need it to flow through the ajna in that specific way.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, that's a great idea. Because sometimes I do get that, but I kind of wonder if that might be separate from this, because sometimes like early in the morning I'll get, if I'm really working hard on a project, I feel like I am getting like literal channeled information, and I have to go write it down or speak into a microphone before I lose it and never get it again. But that experience, I wonder if I should try to do more like free flow writing.
Yeah, it's this is an experiment. It really is an experiment. So it's always the encouragement for you to experiment and see where you feel as a projector successful or bitter. And then to share that experiment, because not that much research has been done on mental projectors because you're so few. Yeah, so that all of that is really helpful for everybody doing human design anywhere in the world.
I think Kiliaka had something else to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was something else that came in mind. You told about the marble that you put in and then it goes down the Hügelibahn, like we say in Switzerland. And when I have this but it doesn't finish, it goes and goes and goes, my mind, then I go in my car, and as I drive the road, the thoughts are not going round and round, so they go further. And then I have my recorder, and I record during the driving what is coming out. So this is also, and the best ideas are coming when I'm driving.
Well, that's perfect. So then you're driving and you're recording yourself, and then afterwards you can go and listen and listen what you're actually supposed to do, like how to take the decisions. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, and I do this especially when my thoughts are never ending, making the same loops. So I go on the street, and then the thoughts are not going round, they go straight further, like the street.
So this is the environment that works for you. Look at that.
Yeah.
You need the right environment.
Yes.
Fabulous.
So that,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the word for that in English? What we call a glucopam, the marble in at the top, and it goes down. What's the English word?
Marble track.
Marble track. Okay, thank you.
That part about the environment is so interesting, and that's something that I've really suppressed within myself, because I feel like I can be and maybe it's my mental center, I can be a very willful person. Like, I have decided that this is so, and this is the way it's going to go. And I've decided, I feel like I've made a decision that I have got a really strong stomach, and I'm like a cockroach. I'm so tough. And I'm not affected by things like living in a basement suite, which I am. But as I'm discovering this, I feel like I'm discovering this like unconscious sensitivity that is affecting me on a level that is really unknown to me, but now it's really like being revealed just in terms of my mood and my day-to-day life and my like positivity and my optimism. And so I was talking to Corrine, and she was saying, your environment is so important because you have so many open centers. And it's just like this light bulb went off about like how cold it is where I live, and damp and dark, and the basement is unfinished, and how I'm like denying that with my mind. I'm like, no, I'm fine with it. I can live like a monk. There's no problem with that. but my body and my emotions and everything about me are like, this is horrible. So I'm so excited to actually give myself permission to spend money and resources on making a bright room for myself or doing whatever I need to do. Like it's totally revolutionary. Like I never would have given myself permission to do that.
And it keeps on. I mean, we've been doing this for 5 or 6 years. And it's truly uncanny how accurate it is. We just had this experience where Lorenz was looking deep within human design, and he found something about me. He found out that I actually need
What a cliffhanger.
a man-made. Yeah, that's because.
Can you back up, Una? Because you froze right when you said I actually need, and then you froze.
Okay, so yeah, I need a man-made structure. So Lorenz was observing me, how I am in nature, when I walk through this garden or I'm outside in nature. I'm not.
That's a shame. But I can tell.
Okay.
You're breaking up. I'm sorry. I'll tell the story for you if that's all right.
Yeah.
Just for now. Yeah, I was looking deep underneath the lines, and when I observed Una for the past 2 years that we've been traveling, I was always wondering how she interacts with nature, which is very different than how I do. I can really immerse myself in nature, and I have a grasp of nature. I know which plant is where and what it does, and so on and so forth. And I couldn't see that in Una, and I was just always having this question in my mind: what is this? It's truly different. What is this? And then recently I found that we are different in a very specific part of human design that is pretty deep underneath the lines, where Una needs man-made objects. So for her, living in a house is very important, or she really loves her car. And I'm very different. And to find that in human design, this thing that I always observed, and I know better than to judge it, but I was still seeing it as something that made me curious. And like, what is this? Why is it so different? And what is Una's relationship to nature and the things around? And yeah, it just makes perfect sense.
That's so specific. That's so interesting.
Yeah. And I want to say something else to the mental projector about the environment, because the environment isn't, so you have all these open centers, and the idea is, that's also something to experiment with, that yes, the environment is important, but not only from the perspective of that you feel good, but with the environment, what is actually meant is people. So Ra says to take a decision, go into a supermarket. Because what will happen is you will have all these people around you that will define your gates. You're open there, so that means you're taking others in. So you will have like a firework of definitions of all the things. And after you've been through the supermarket, your system has been connected in all sorts of ways. And maybe information could flow through the centers to somewhere where you have more clarity. So that's also an idea of being in the right environment and going to somewhere where all your centers can be defined without you having to interact with it necessarily, just enjoying the fireworks of the definitions.
Wow, that is so interesting, because I have found that so for example, if I'm having a bad day, I'm a therapist. So, and I'm going to work and I've got 3 or 4 or 6 people in a row, and that doesn't bother me at all to have like people. And even by the end of the first session, I feel invigorated and happy. And so I must be like directly feeding off of their energy centers or something, because it's like so satisfying for me to be able to go to work and I could be having a miserable day.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, it could be that, but it's also for a projector to be able to focus on one person is really what they are meant to do. And being able to do what you are meant to do just feels so good. I think I would think that might be a different plane. That might be the plane of the projector and not the plane of the mental projecting configuration. I've heard that other projectors say that it's just when they can focus on one person deeply and then they can focus on another person deeply, that makes them so happy. Yeah,
Okay,
it's beautiful. It's beautiful to hear that from you too. And that's so specific. That wouldn't work for a generator, and it wouldn't work for a manifestor or reflector. That's really something, this one-on-one, what they're supposed to do, focus one-on-one. Yeah, that's a projector's thing.
Okay. I wonder if, in regards to that idea about getting energy from other people's centers, so not like my design being pointed and feeling really good about satisfying that, but like if I'm at a party, I will just gravitate to the loudest, funniest, most alive person. Do you think that's part of the project, or is that part of me just like of being a vampire on somebody else's other system?
I couldn't tell. We're still,
that is probably a little bit deeper, that you reach the exact time of birth. It's like me needing a man-made structure, being comfortable in that, and not knowing what an acacia tree looks like. Because I really, a tree is a tree, and I love trees, and I don't get why people put names to that. That was my thought process. I thought that's an original thought. It's not an original thought. It's how I thought. Are you hearing?
That's a little better. You were quiet.
Okay. Okay, so I thought that was an original thought that I had as a child. Why do people find Latin names and Swiss German names and German names and English names for the same tree? And I thought that was so random. But I loved looking at the stars, and there's Scorpio, and that's obvious that is Scorpio. I'm connected to the stars. That's no problem. While being connected to something man-made like a chair.
So interesting.
Yeah, but it is deeper. That's why I was pulling this here up, just to show again that so this is sort of general what we're looking at. We've got 64 gates and 9 centers, and then so here I have the sun in 46, in gate 46. I think it's this one, and then it says 46.6. So the 46.6, the 6 is the line below the gate. Here we have the sun in gate 46, and so that's somewhere between, in the sky, somewhere between Libra and Virgo. But the sky is subdivided into 6 lines, which comes from the hexagrams. And so, the sun moves, or all the planets, they move along there. So they're in one of those lines. if we have the grade 46, and then the sun comes and is in the first line, which is yin, open, and it goes to the second line, the third line. And for me, it's in the sixth line, a yin line. So one could go to the I Ching or I Ching and look at what gate 46.6 is. And that's where that comes from how Ra then describes the 46.6. But then you can also subdivide that sixth line is subdivided into another 6 lines called color. And that's divided into another 6 lines, which is called tone. And that is divided into another 6 lines, which is called base. But you need the exact time of when you're born. And the way we come into this world really is from the bottom, from that base, through the tone, through the color, through the line, to the gate, to the center. So we're actually looking at it backwards from where we are now back to where it all came from. Yeah. Lorenz, do you want to say something about that?
I find it beautiful, and I find it remarkable how we're looking at these things, and we're basically looking at the top of the iceberg. There is so much more underneath that you can look at. And as always in human design, like, this is really interesting, and to what we found, it's insanely accurate. And at the same time, you never have to do anything more than following strategy and authority to be aligned to who you are. It's like an automatic process. If you want to go into all this, great. It might give you hints for awareness, because you can see then things. It might open something up that you then can observe, that you can become aware of. But if you're not following strategy and authority, it won't do anything for you. Ra has this story. When he started teaching human design, he never went below the lines. At the beginning, a lot of things were different, is what I'm told. And he has this story when, after a few years and a few people have been studying with him for maybe 5, 6, 7 years, and he's preparing a workshop. And he has all these documents that he's been working on, where he goes underneath the lines, where he goes into the color and tone and base. So he's shuffling papers around and says to himself, oh, someday I've got to teach that. And the person next to him, which has been studying with him for 6 years, looks at him and asks, what do you mean? What do you have to teach? And then he just shows him some papers where it's visible that below the lines, there is like 3 more differentiations. And he says he never forgot the absolutely shocked look on this person's face. And he just said, wait, there's more?
It's what it does when I find out, it's like you said, Celia, that uncanniness. Hey, wait a minute, I thought I'm original. I am original. But even my thought processes that I had as a child and I thought they were mine. Wait a minute, that's all by design? It's all programmed? So there's a fascinating process that I'm still doing as to what this world is about. What's this consciousness? Who's this being? Who am I? What part is just a role on the stage of the world? And all of that, we're digging into that. And at the same time, that can be uncomfortable because we don't know. And at the same time, it's a relaxation. Yes, I'm allowed to be that. I am perfectly allowed to drive my car up to the beach and just sit in my car with the door open and wait until I actually want to go out and be on this beautiful beach. It's okay. So, yeah, it's a fascinating ride. And I've looked at all sorts of systems, and from astrology to these manager things and anthroposophic, sanguine, and whatever the system is, nothing has stuck with me like this has, because of its uncanniness and because of its accuracy. The deeper you go. Yeah. So where do we go from here?
It's also 5.5. Like we would go from here into the lines. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
we have the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. We would be going into these lines. So maybe just prepare that for next time. These lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they have just to know they come again and again and again. But the uppermost part is in, let's look at it this way, where the sun and the earth is. So the sun and the earth are exactly opposite each other in the wheel. So that's why they have the same line. So for me, that is 6. And the sun and the earth have a huge impact. And here on the design side, we also have the sun and the earth directly opposite each other. So they have the same line and the same impact. So then that gives us what we see in did that close?
I closed.
In our profile.
While you search the document, I can I can say what you're going to see on it. So that's when you do your chart, you'll see somewhere it says profile, and then you have 2 numbers, and these 2 numbers are the gates of your sun earth. Once on the design side and once on the personality side. So if you have design, if you have profile, let's say 4-6, which is mine, that means my sun earth on the personality side, which is the black column, is a 4. It's the 4th line on my sun earth. Or let's take this one. Let's take Celia. She has a 3 on the gates of the sun earth in the design. So that means your profile will have the first number 3 and the second number 5, because the gates on the design side are 2 5s. And then all like this 1 to 6, as Una said, it comes again and again and again. And we're gonna go through the common thematics of these 6 lines because they repeat. They are unique to the gate. So the 10.6 isn't the same as the 15.6. And at the same time, all the 6s in all the gates, they'll have a common theme, you could say. So they all point to the same thing.
Yeah, so that's the part you see right here where it says profile 6.3. So on this side, that's the 6th line below the gate, whatever the gate is. And the 3 is the 3rd line below whatever the gates are here. And the gates can be, it's different for everybody. We'll go really deeply into that next time, I think, but we need to move on to our next session, Lorenz and I. Is there anything else to ask or say?
Also, I want to say to Celia, if you need someone to listen to, a pleasure.
Yeah, so Celia is in Canada.
Yeah, let's do that.
Zones.
Yeah, sounds good.
I think you can take each other off Telegram. You can find yourself there.
Okay.
Yeah, you're great. Both on the English Zoom now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
Thank you very much, Una and Lorenz, for putting this together and assisting everybody. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Well,
thank you for being here, because it's just so much more fun as a generator, speaking as a generator, when there's more people. Yeah. Okay. See you in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you.
Bye.
yeah,
Bye.
thanks.
Bye.
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 Around the world.
Yeah.